So, um, imagine someone walking up to you on your wedding day, right? They look deeply into your eyes, and they tell you that your teeth look like a flock of newly shorn sheep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be quite the compliment today.
Right. I mean, you would probably be incredibly confused, or honestly outright insulted.
Absolutely. You'd probably
What?
turn around and walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
But 3,000 years ago, that exact phrase was actually the ultimate declaration of psychological safety. And, well, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So today we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources for you. We've got the ancient poetry of the Song of Solomon, some modern psychological frameworks on attachment, and some deeply insightful theological commentary as well.
It's a really unique mix of texts, for sure.
It is. And our mission today is to take this ancient text, specifically chapter 4, which is just full of these bizarre, vivid metaphors, and actually decode it.
Because it is so easy to, dismiss ancient poetry as just flowery or generic romance. But when you actually analyze the structure of this specific chapter, you find it's anything but generic.
Right. It's actually really specific.
Exactly. We are looking at a highly intentional, incredibly structured masterclass in the psychology of connection, boundaries, and respect.
Okay, so we're going to move quickly through the human relationship principles hidden in this text first. We really want to explore how this specific imagery reveals the rules of intimacy.
Right, but we aren't stopping there.
No, we won't. Once we map out that blueprint, we're going to pivot entirely. We'll spend the bulk of our time looking at how these exact ancient truths can completely restructure your relationship with God.
Because, interestingly enough, the psychology of human connection actually mirrors the architecture of divine trust.
I love how you put that. So let's unpack this.
Yeah.
To understand that architecture, I guess we have to start with the imagery itself, right?
Yeah, we do. So the bridegroom is communicating with his bride here, and he completely bypasses the standard expected compliments. He says her hair is like a flock of goats descending from Mount Gilead.
A flock of goats.
Right. And her lips are like a thread of scarlet. Her temples are like a piece of pomegranate.
And then there is the sheep metaphor. He tells her that her teeth are like a flock of sheep that are evenly shorn, like where everyone bears twins and none is barren.
Which, I mean, it's a highly localized cultural way of saying she has a perfect, exceptionally clean and complete smile.
Got it. So he's saying she has nice teeth.
Basically, yeah. But if we get hung up on the agricultural metaphors, we completely miss the underlying mechanism.
Which is what, exactly?
The text is demonstrating the immense power of specific affirmation. I mean, anyone can look at a partner and say, "You are beautiful."
Right, that's easy.
Exactly. That requires zero cognitive effort. But naming details repeatedly and with intense focus, well, that requires something much more valuable.
Sustained attention.
Yes. Sustained attention. Attention is the absolute currency of connection.
It's kind of like the difference between receiving a generic pre-printed greeting card from a drugstore versus getting a handwritten letter.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Yeah.
Like, the greeting card just communicates that someone remembered an event. Happy birthday. But the handwritten letter, especially if it references specific conversations or tiny habits you have, it proves that someone has actually been studying you.
Right. They have been paying attention to your reality. And if someone cannot articulate the specifics of what they value about you, they haven't truly been observing you.
And observation is what builds emotional safety, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. When someone mirrors your specific realities back to you, it provides psychological proof that you are actually seen.
But let me push back on this for a second. Does focusing on physical attributes like hair, lips, or a neck like the Tower of David, does that actually build emotional safety?
How do you mean?
Well, in a modern context, hyper-focusing on physical traits often feels like surface-level flattery, or even objectification. It feels shallow.
That is a crucial distinction to make. In the context of this ancient relationship, these physical descriptions are not about reducing the person to their parts.
Okay, so what are they about?
They are evidence of presence. Articulating exact details proves to the partner that they are not invisible.
Ah, I see.
Being called beautiful flatters the ego, sure. But being told exactly how you exist in someone else's eyes, that anchors you. It removes the anxiety of wondering if you are truly known.
So when a person feels comprehensively seen, what happens?
The brain's threat detection systems actually calm down, which in turn creates a really deep sense of security.
Wow. But that level of deep observation carries a profound risk, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you are entirely seen, you are entirely vulnerable.
Exactly. Which requires an emotional architecture to protect that vulnerability.
And that perfectly sets up the shift in the text. The bridegroom moves from observing her features to describing her environment. He calls her a garden enclosed.
A spring shut up, a fountain sealed.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting.
That phrase is actually the pivot point of the entire chapter. A garden enclosed defines the relationship by its exclusivity.
So it's not an open access area.
No, not at all. It is set apart. It's protected by a boundary.
The sources list an incredible inventory of what is inside this garden, actually. An orchard of pomegranates, spikenard, saffron, calamus, cinnamon, frankincense, and myrrh.
Which were exceptionally rare, valuable spices at the time.
It brings to mind, like, a private, walled botanical sanctuary compared to just a public city park.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a public park has grass and flowers, and it's pleasant, but anyone can walk through it, leave their trash, and just walk out.
Right. There's no control over who comes in.
Exactly. But a locked botanical garden is a protected sanctuary where the rarest things can actually survive because the climate is controlled.
And that metaphor reflects a hard psychological truth for us today. Exclusivity is what gives intimacy its weight.
How so?
Well, if everyone has access to your deepest emotional and physical self, those parts of you lose their specific value in the context of a partnership.
Wow. That's heavy.
It is. Intimacy without exclusivity leads directly to psychological instability, because the brain simply cannot form a secure attachment in an environment where access is completely unrestricted.
In our current cultural moment, though, words like boundaries or enclosures, they often sound synonymous with restriction.
They do, yeah. They get a bad rap.
They sound like a lack of freedom or even a way to control someone.
We really have to flip that script to understand the ancient perspective here. A boundary is not a cage to keep someone trapped. It is a vault to protect what is invaluable.
A vault, I like that.
Yeah. Access to the deepest parts of a person must be earned and protected, not universally assumed. You cannot build a meaningful, lasting connection without structural limits.
So the enclosed garden preserves the value of the intimacy by shielding it from the erosion of outside elements.
Precisely.
That brings us to the climate inside the garden itself. Once the gate is locked, the pacing of the relationship changes.
It slows way down.
Yeah. The bridegroom says, "Awake, O north wind, and come, thou south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out."
And he also makes this really profound statement to her. He says, "There is no spot in thee."
The entire tone is incredibly deliberate.
It's a masterclass in intentionality. The healthiest intimacy engages with profound awareness rather than just impulsive chemistry.
The lack of urgency, right?
Exactly. The imagery is layered, asking the wind to slowly spread the scent of the spices. They are slowing down to actually experience the connection they have built.
But wait, the language surrounding this deliberately paced garden is still wildly passionate.
Yeah.
He talks about his heart being ravished by one of her eyes. He describes the taste of honey and milk under her tongue.
Very passionate, yes.
Our modern assumption is that true passion is naturally impulsive, chaotic, and uncontrollable.
Yeah.
So if you are pacing yourself, are you really passionate?
That assumption is exactly what this text challenges. It presents a beautiful contradiction.
Which is?
That explosive passion, the spices flowing out, only thrives safely because it is contained within a protected structure.
Oh, wow. So structure allows for more passion.
Exactly. Uncontrolled, chaotic attraction often leads to short-term decisions that create long-term damage.
But when desire is contained within the walls of commitment and respect, it can be fully unleashed without fear.
Because safety dictates openness.
Yes, it does.
People don't open up when they feel evaluated or at risk. They open up when they feel secure. And hearing "there is no spot in thee" is the ultimate declaration of unconditional safety.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of this deep dive.
Right, because we've unpacked the human application of this ancient text in under 9 minutes here. The necessity of specific affirmation, the value of an exclusive enclosed garden, and the protected intentionality of true desire. But these concepts were never meant to just be dating advice.
No, they weren't.
This framework is a direct mirror, a psychological blueprint for understanding and strengthening our relationship with God.
Taking these principles and applying them to faith completely rewires how we view spirituality. So let's take that first concept, specific affirmation.
Okay, let's do it.
In the text, the bridegroom sees every single detail of the bride, proving she is fully known. If we apply that to the divine, it means God isn't looking at humanity as some monolithic crowd.
Precisely. We often default to a broad strokes understanding of divine love. We think God loves the world in a general, generic way.
Like the drugstore greeting card.
Exactly like the generic greeting card. But the mechanism we discussed earlier, that generic praise lacks cognitive effort and emotional weight, applies here too.
So God's attention is specific.
Yes. God pays perfect, unfiltered attention to the absolute specifics of your life. Every quirk, every fear, every minute detail of your daily existence is observed.
That fundamentally changes the posture of faith, doesn't it?
It really does.
So many of us operate under the assumption that God is essentially a distant celestial CEO, like a boss with a clipboard, evaluating our performance metrics.
Just checking to see if our good deeds outweigh our mistakes.
Exactly. But the bridegroom in this text doesn't hold a clipboard. He looks at the garden of the bride and says, "There is no spot in you."
And that phrase, "there is no spot in you," is essentially the theological concept of grace, but understood through a psychological lens.
Tell me more about that.
Well, let's look at the neurobiology of feeling evaluated. When you feel judged, your brain's threat response activates. Your amygdala fires, and you shift into a defensive, self-protective mode.
You go into survival mode.
Right. You cannot form a deep, trusting bond when your primary objective is defending yourself from criticism.
Which completely explains why so many people have shallow prayer lives.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are torching a God who you believe is just waiting for you to fail, you are going to pray incredibly safe, defensive prayers.
You'll hide the messy parts.
Yeah. You will hide the broken parts of your life because you are terrified of the evaluation.
But grace removes the cognitive load of performing. When you realize that God has already observed every specific detail of your life, including your flaws, and still approaches you with the secure tone of the bridegroom saying you are altogether beautiful, it bypasses that biological threat response.
You don't have to posture anymore.
Exactly. You don't have to hide. You can finally engage the parts of your brain responsible for deep attachment and trust because the fear of rejection has been structurally removed.
Oh, man. That transitions perfectly into the idea of the enclosed garden.
Let's talk about that.
In human terms, we talked about exclusivity, a protected sanctuary versus a public park. What does it actually mean for us to be an enclosed garden for God?
Well, it suggests a level of exclusivity that is incredibly rare in modern faith.
Because it's so noisy today.
Right. It means God desires a deliberately cultivated, protected space in your heart that is not accessible to the rest of the world.
It is the rejection of the open access spiritual life.
Yes. We live in an era where our attention is universally accessible. Every notification, every news cycle, every anxiety has immediate access to our internal world.
Our minds are very much like that public city park.
Anyone and anything can wander through and leave their debris.
It is so easy to let faith become just another item in that public park, you know. We treat it like a checklist.
Attend a service, say a quick prayer in the car.
Try to be a decent person. We give God a bench in the park, but there is no wall around it. The noise of the world is happening right next to the spiritual practice.
And that's where we miss out. Building an enclosed garden for God means establishing radical boundaries around your attention.
What does that look like practically?
It means actively saying to the endless scrolling, the professional anxieties, and the cultural noise, you do not have access to this specific time or this specific mental space.
It is the intentional practice of compartmentalization for the sake of connection. How does someone actually build those walls, though? The concept sounds beautiful, but the application feels impossible when our phones are buzzing in our pockets during prayer.
It's hard, but you build the walls through structured spiritual disciplines.
Like what?
Things like fasting, designated periods of silence, or observing a true day of rest.
But historically, people have viewed these disciplines as restrictions, much like we view human boundaries as restrictive.
Right. We think a day of rest is a rule meant to make our lives harder or keep us from being productive.
But returning to our earlier analogy, those disciplines aren't restrictions at all. They are the architectural walls of the botanical garden.
They are the locked gate.
Yes. They keep the chaos of the public park out so that the rare spices can actually take root and grow.
Because if a rare fragrance is released in an open field, the wind immediately dissipates it. It loses its potency.
That makes so much sense.
But if that same fragrance is released inside a walled, enclosed garden, the scent becomes concentrated and powerful.
And the same is true for spiritual intimacy.
It really is. If you try to connect with God while leaving your mind open to 100 other distractions, the intimacy dissipates. It requires the sealed boundary to become potent.
That brings us to the final concept, The climate inside that spiritual garden.
The pacing.
Right. The text talks about waking the north and south winds to blow upon the spices and taking the time to experience the connection. When we secure the perimeter of our attention, how does that change the actual experience of interacting with God?
It shifts faith from a transactional duty into a secure trust.
Because in a transactional relationship, everything is rushed.
Exactly. You deliver your requests, you get your receipt, and you leave.
But inside the enclosed garden, the pace naturally slows down. You aren't just reciting a list of needs.
You are inviting the wind, inviting the presence of God to interact with the space you have cleared out.
We often rely heavily on impulsive spiritual highs, though. We want that explosive passion.
We do. We want to feel incredibly moved by a piece of music or an inspiring speech.
And we mistake that temporary, spontaneous emotional high for deep faith.
But just like human desire, if spiritual passion isn't contained within a committed structure, it fades the moment the circumstances change.
Relying on spontaneous emotional spikes creates an incredibly unstable spiritual life, doesn't it?
Highly unstable. You feel close to God when things are going well and completely abandoned when they aren't.
But when your spiritual life is an enclosed garden, the trust isn't dependent on external weather.
No, it is protected. The daily, unglamorous structure of intentionality, showing up in the quiet, honoring the boundary, practicing the specific affirmation of gratitude, is what transforms fleeting inspiration into unshakable resilience.
It is the realization that God isn't demanding an exclusive enclosed garden because he's a cosmic dictator who wants to limit your freedom.
Not at all.
He is inviting you into the garden because he knows that is the only environment where the noise stops, a cognitive load drops, and genuine transformative connection can survive.
He provides the safety of perfect attention so that we can drop our defenses, build the necessary walls against a chaotic world, and cultivate a relationship that actually sustains us.
We have covered massive ground today. We started by looking at ancient, highly vivid poetry about goats descending mountains and evenly shorn sheep.
And we decoded those metaphors.
Yeah, we uncovered incredibly practical human relationship principles. The necessity of specific affirmation over generic praise, the value of creating an exclusive, protected boundary, and the safety required to foster true intimacy.
And by elevating those principles, we discovered a profound blueprint for divine connection.
We saw how God's perfect, detailed attention removes our need to perform, and how intentionally walling off our attention from the world creates a sanctuary where deep, resilient faith can actually grow.
Intimacy, whether it is with your spouse sitting across from you or with God in the quiet of your mind, is never accidental.
It is built.
Yes. It only carries weight because it is protected, because it is intentional, and because it is rooted in specific, focused respect.
It makes you wonder, if specific, undivided attention is the absolute foundation of both human and spiritual intimacy, how is our modern era of constant multi-screen distraction not just killing our productivity, but actively starving our most important relationships?
That's the real question.
So as you walk away from this deep dive, take a hard look at your own life. How will you apply this information in your life?